is majoritarianism? So I know what is coming across your mind. Majoritarianism is something that your brother or your elder sister, holding power would every time use against you. So how has it increased their feelings of alienation among Sri Lankan Tamils? Explain with examples. So this is the question, divided into 3 sets. So they've asked for a question and they've divided into 3 sets because they are expecting you to answer it in 3 different sets. That does not mean that you're going to provide a mixture of Italian, Indian cuisines and I would say Chinese together, all together. You're going to place it right on the table, pulling everything together. Don't do that. They have clearly mentioned it. They want it in answer. They want the answer separately and we're going to provide it. So what is majoritarianism? So I am explaining majoritarianism. First you're going to give the definition that you guys have right here and it's coming across your mind like anything, that it is a concept which signifies a belief that the majority community should be able to rule the country in whichever way it wants. So in this style, they disregard the feelings of the minority. Like I told you, your brother, sister using power against you is all about majoritarianism. So now I'm going to answer the second question, that is, how has it increased the feelings of alienation among Sri Lankan Tamils? Now, if it's a question, of course, again, I'm going to draw a very small map of India in a box and I'm going to talk that yes, this is Sri Lanka and here is where they've been demanding their autonomous region, that's northeast Sri Lanka. Now what has led to this? What are the reasons? Like how? They are asking you how. Do you get it? We just write the answer for the heck of it. It's not the case, guys. The question clearly states that they're asking you how did it crop up. Like they've been living together for years, but what made them feel that they are not belonging to this territory, they not belong to this country and they feel alienated for that matter. So the very first point that you're going to start with is that the series of measures that have been taken by Sinhalas have probably advocated a feeling of that sort into the Sri Lankan Tamils. The very first point in this is 3 points I'm going to give you. The very first point is that the government has followed policies related to preferential treatment. They've allotted government jobs to their own people, that is the Sinhala people. They've kept reservation in education system only for their own people. And second point that you're going to talk about is, before you start or explain this point, please make sure that here you put a very important mark and you show it there that you're going to talk about this act. In 1956 Act, what did they do? They declared their own language, that is Sinhala, as their official language. And the third important point, they also came up with a new constitution that advocates that okay, only and only rights belonging to the people of, or maybe following this religion of Buddhism, their rights would be secured and others would be excluded. So imagine a special package coming out from Burger King, Domino's or someone like that, that okay, we're gonna just people above 18 are gonna get 50% off. Right? Everybody below the age of 18 years is going to feel alienated anyway. They're not going to like this policy. So this is what happened. This is the very first practice of Domino's that's going to go against the market, right? People are not going to like it. So similarly, what the government did, because of which the Tamil people, they sort of felt alienated, that we are not being respected for who we are and we want our rights. So these are 3 points I'm going to summarize for you. The very first is the official language. Second is preference given to the people in jobs, in education. And third, a new constitution. And then you're going to talk about the preference given to their own people. So this is how you guys going to make a difference to your answer and present it to your teacher. Okay, so on that note, let's get started with the next important question. how have Belgium and Sri Lanka, dealt with the question of power sharing differently? Now, if I read this question twice, or if I invest my time, a minute or so, in reading the question for like 2 times and then coming up with the answer, I would probably feel the essence. I would probably come to know, okay, they're talking separately about Belgium and they want a separate answer for Sri Lanka. They don't want a khichdi made out of it, right? Nobody's going to like that khichdi. So how you're going to answer or attempt this question is that yes, differences had probably cropped up in both the countries. May it be Belgium, may it be Sri Lanka. They've been facing different or difficult situations, but the way they dealt with it was also quite different. So in spite of being democratic countries, they have had issues related to power sharing. So this is going to be the introduction. Before you get started with the answer, you have to give a very, very, very good introduction that yes, in spite of the fact that they were democratic, they had issues related to power sharing. So first I'm going to talk about clearly segregated in this case. First I'm going to talk about in this case is power sharing related to Belgium. So yes, in Belgium I'm going to talk that yes, the leaders were reasonably very smart too, and they addressed the problem very smartly. They protected the feelings and interest of different communities by coming up with a proposal that an arrangement where they're going to share the power with the local authorities or people in minority. But whereas contradictory to this statement, what I've made right here, I have written that Sri Lanka shows a different story. So they've asked me about Belgium, they've asked me about Sri Lanka. I've clearly stated, given a good introduction, then I've talked about Belgium, then I've talked about Sri Lanka. So there's no point anyway I'm going to give any offensive answer for that matter. It's all clear out here that yes, we have different set of stories, we've mentioned it differently, and now we can secure good marks. Okay, so let's get started with the third question, with the next question for that matter. Explain any 2 reasons as to why power sharing is desirable. Okay, I know the 2 reasons that's going to come up to your mind is you're going to talk about moral reason, you're going to talk about the prudential reasons. These are the basic 2 reasons. So imagine a person is presenting the answer, writing those 2 reasons in the form of a good paragraph, a very good writing and all, and writing that in a form of a paragraph. Right? So the teacher would probably invest a lot of time getting points, segregating points related to the moral reasons, segregating points related to the prudential reasons, and then allocating marks to you. So we're going to make their life really easy. So in this case, what I can do is I can give a very, very interesting introduction that power sharing is desirable for various reasons. We need power sharing anyway. So the 2 sets of reasons why we are talking about power sharing is the very first one, underline guys, please underline it. So very first is the prudential reason, and the second reason that I'm going to talk is moral reasons. So 2 reasons, first is prudential and the second one is going to be the moral reason. So in this case I have drawn a very small block diagram in which I have written prudential reason, I have drawn moral reason, so that it becomes pretty clear to the teacher, yes, I'm going to highlight those important stuff. So I have picked up prudential reason, I have retained all the important points related to prudential. For example, if you can't relate to prudential reason, the easy way that I probably prefer to go around is P is for prudential and P starts for profit and loss. So whenever you're looking that there's not going to be any conflict, whenever you have to adjust, so that's all about profit and loss, adjusting the profit, compensating on the loss side. So P is prudential, P is profit. So whenever I talk about prudential, so it's like to resolve the conflict. If you're going to resolve the conflict, you're going to ensure that there's going to be stability. And also, in order to, if there's going to be stability, anyway it's going to help in national unity and integrity of the, you know, to define the integrity of the country. So that is related to the prudential reason. But please ensure when you're providing the points, you are supposed to use bullet pointers or maybe put it across numbers. But in this case, I have preferred to use, you know, the numbering. I would probably go in this way. Similarly, second I am going to start, I have talked about prudential reason. Now from here I am going to start for the moral reasons. So it becomes pretty clear to your teacher that you've segregated the answer. A person who has not segregated the answer would not score marks. It's like a very something that goes against you, that's not going to work in your favor. But however, if you've segregated the points, if you've made sure that yes, you have content available or relevant facts related to prudential or maybe moral reasons, you can write a good answer. And towards the end, you can of course make sure that you conclude your answer. And how you're going to do this is that in this way, it's said that both sets of reasons, they signify the importance of power sharing in the form of community government, may it be, you know, the reserve constituencies, and decentralization of power becomes very, very, very important. So both together play a very important role when it comes to power sharing and stability in the country. So that's the whole point. Let's jump on to the next question and let's see. Okay, now coming to the crux of the chapter, they are asking what are, and it's a very important question and can be expected, what are the different forms of power sharing in modern democracies? Explain with example of each of these. Clearly mention that you're going to give a good example for each case that you're going to talk about. So we basically have 4 basic sets of power sharing. First, I'm going to talk about horizontal power sharing. Then I'm going to talk about the vertical power sharing. So in horizontal distribution, see, you guys know that power can be shared in 2 basic sets. You can divide it in horizontal, vertical, then among different social groups, and finally power shared among different political parties. These are the 4 basic points. Now I'm going to reveal one thing right here, that whatever stuff you guys have learned is not going to help you anyway. Like you might have been cramming this chapter for years, like for an year I would say, but that's not going to help you score marks, right? The only point that's going to help you score marks or probably, you know, write a good answer is the pointers. So I know that power can be shared in 4 different ways, as I kick-started my answer with. So that's what gonna help you. So first you're gonna tell that yes, give a good introduction. Power sharing is really desirable in a country to have a stability and integration in the members of the country. So the very first division that I'm going to talk about here is horizontal distribution. I'm going to give you relevant stuff related to that. Second, I'm going to talk about vertical distribution of power sharing, and then I'm going to talk about the 2 cases, because this is a very long answer question, can be expected in 5 marks. So whenever you're talking about vertical distribution of powers, you can address or compare the case of India with the countries that they've talked about. For example, you can compare India and Belgium, because in that case you have 3 levels of government. So guys, please underline the important stuff. For example, in this case, horizontal power distribution, you're going to underline legislative, executive and judiciary. In vertical distribution, you're going to underline the union government, or you can call it the federal government, and of course the regional or state level government. So you've clearly mentioned that yes, this is, or maybe you guys can probably use a black pen to highlight that you're going to talk about the horizontal distribution of power, and then prefer to underline the 3 organs of the state. Similarly, you can use a black pen to start your answer and talk about vertical distribution of power, and then define that yes, you have your union government and then you have state level government. Let's jump on to the 3rd important set, that is power sharing. You're going to use a black pen. Power sharing among different social group. So when I say social group, something that you guys can underline and get the teacher's attention is going to be religious and linguistic groups. So fourth point is going to be power sharing among political parties. So in this you can say that political parties may be in the form of coalition government. They have to share their power in coalition. They can share their power among different pressure groups to ensure that the government is functioning the right way. So this is how you're going to attempt the body part, and last part you're going to conclude it this way, that the four important factors, that's horizontal, vertical and power sharing among social groups or maybe political parties, they help to ensure that there is stability in the country and the interest of minorities are also protected.